In the beginning. The Hebrew language and script hold a profound spiritual, mystical, and even magical significance within the ancient Hebrew tradition, and I will explain what I mean by magical later. Each Hebrew letter is not merely just a symbol, but a vessel of deeper spiritual meaning. The ancient alphabet, known as the alphabet, has been created to divine creation, with ancient traditions suggesting that God used the very letters to create the universe. Each letter is believed to contain hidden codes and numerological values that offer insights into the nature of God. YZXxXy, the creation and man's existence. Spiritual symbolism of letters. Each letter has a numerological value and symbolic meaning. For example, the Aleph represents the oneness and unity of God, YZXxXy, and the second letter, Bet, symbolizes duality and creation. Together, they form the beginning of Bereshit, indicating a transition from the singularity of God to the multiplicity of creation. Letters of the creative forces in ancient teaching, particularly in the works like the Book of Creation. The Hebrew letters are considered to be hiding blocks of the universe. This entwining of the language and reality reflects the belief that speaking or writing in Hebrew can tap into the very essence of creation. The letters are seen as living entities and divine energy, strengthening the connection between the language and the divine reality. The mystical tradition suggests the understanding ancient Hebrew is not just a language, but unlocking spiritual truths. In the ancient Hebrew thought, the concept of magic was deeply entwined with spirituality, divine power, and the relationship between man and the supernatural. However, the Hebrew Bible and other ancient texts, including the Dead Sea Scrolls, generally portray magic as a negative light, often associating it with pagan practices, false prophets, or actions outside the divine will. Let's look at the Hebrew term for magic. The term keshaf appears in the Bible, Exodus 22:18, Deuteronomy 18:10, and is often translated as sorcery or witchcraft. It refers to practices that attempt to manipulate spiritual forces for personal gain or to exert control over others, often seen as contrary to divine law. Mystical practices and words of power, while overtly magic was condemned, Hebrew traditions do recognize the mystical power embedded in words, names, and letters. Certain combination of Hebrew letters, such as the tetragrammaton, which is YHVH, is the divine name of God, was seen as powerful tools for connecting to the divine energy. This is not magic in a sense of manipulation, but rather participation in the divine order. Amulets and mystical symbols. In some Hebrew traditions, amulets or protective objects inscribed with Hebrew letters or prayers were often used to ask for divine protection. These were seen as asking for the Creator's protection rather than manipulating supernatural forces in a way that would be considered magical. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, particularly in the texts like the War Scroll and various writings, contain references to spiritual warfare and the battle between light and darkness. They frame the use of the sacred words or practices as tools in the cosmic struggle rather than personal magical acts. The community at the Quran saw themselves engaged in divine battle and used texts like psalms and blessings as weapons in the spiritual conflict. Creation and divine power. In Genesis 1, the act of creation is portrayed as being initiated by the words spoken by the Creator. God, "Let there be light," or which highlights the power of the divine speech as a creative and ordering force. In this context and contrast, the divine words are seen as the ultimate expression of God's authority, far beyond any man's manipulation. Christianity and the Logos. In the Christian thought, particularly in the Gospel of John, the idea of the Logos, the word, is tied to the ancient Hebrew understanding of divine speech. The Logos is identified as Jesus Christ, Yahushua, through whom all things were made. This concept reflects the Hebrew idea that divine speech and power are not magic, but the embodiment of divine will. In ancient Hebrew thought, magic is manipulative, sensed, was condemned, but there was acknowledgement of power of divine words, names and symbols. This tradition continued in early Christianity with the understanding of Christ as divine word, Logos, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, while not directly discussing magic, reflect the worldview where sacred text and words played a key role in the struggle between good and evil. This framework suggests that the true power comes from alignment with divine intent, but not from trying to attempt to control or manipulate.